Welcome to the GFY Podcast, a podcast by healthcare professionals for healthcare professionals, providing insight on how to navigate your career so that you can go fix yourself. The GFY Podcast is hosted by Mike Bruno, a chiropractor and athletic trainer, and me, Michael Stant, an athletic trainer certified strength conditioning specialist. Although we are healthcare providers, we are not your healthcare provider. We will discuss general health interventions in this podcast, but you should not take that as health advice that works in every situation. Before doing anything on your own or making any lifestyle changes, please consult with your own physician. This podcast and views from this podcast are separate from our full-time jobs and our own opinions. If you're enjoying the GFY podcast, please leave us a review on your listening platform and or subscribe to our podcast at YouTube. Links to our show can be found in the show notes on any platform that you're listening to. So today we have Krysta Huber. Is that how you say it? Let's go.
You nailed it.
There's Huber, but I was like, it could be Huber, but there's not a second B. I'm not really sure what's going on. And so, Krysta, if you don't mind just introducing yourself, kind of where you're at right now, how you came to be, maybe not how you came to be, but a little bit ahead of that.
We'll get into all of that in due time, but yes, you nailed my name, thank you. I do actually get Hubbers more often than you would think, so good job. But thank you guys so much for having me. I feel like this is probably a long time coming, right, Mike? We've talked about this previously and just we finally got the schedules to sync up, so I'm excited to be here. I am a what I will call a multifaceted human being. I like a lot of different things. I'm passionate about a lot of different topics. And I would argue that the through line of everything I do, both personally and professionally, comes down to storytelling and communication. And I found my way into the world of fitness and nutrition almost by accident, just out of like a passion for exercising and then ultimately being the what I might call stereotypical freshman year of college girly who was like, I would like to eat pizza and drink the drinks and not get on a treadmill and kill myself in the gym. I was a very intense high school athlete. I ditched all of that because I was burnt the hell out. And then I could not figure out where fitness was going to fit in my life at age 19 through 22, found group fitness that way. And that really, though, eventually led me to nutrition because of the fact that I felt like I was trying traditional advice and things just were not working for me because I couldn't find something that gave me the flexibility to support wanting to have a healthy relationship with food. So we can get into a little bit more of my career path there. But where this really all kind of comes full circle is I, in the last year and a half, have started a social media marketing agency because my school and professional background from the jump was always focused on journalism. And I never knew exactly how the nutrition path would lead me back there, but owning a business 100% has, because I realized in operating an online nutrition coaching business that if you can't talk about it and you can't sell it, then there will be no business and there will be no clients to help. So fast forward to 5+ years of owning my nutrition brand called The Fitness Fix, hosting a podcast that was previously called The Fix, that was very much focused on fitness and nutrition. In 2025, and now more specifically into 2026, I evolved and added a second business, a marketing agency called The Spread, and I've rebranded my podcast to just make it a little bit more lifestyle focused, that it does hit on the ideas of what can we focus, mindset, fitness, nutrition, all of those things, but also getting into your identity. And then from the business perspective, how do we communicate those things online to get people to trust us, to interact with our audiences? And that show is called No Such Thing, which I do think kind of encompasses everything I do because I don't think anything's black and white. I don't think the story that I have of how I've gotten here has been any shade of black or white. It's been a whole lot of gray. And I wanted to really rebrand that conversation in that space to be able to show people that that is okay, that you don't have to put yourself in a box, because I most certainly do not live my life in any predefined box.
You are well spoken. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Thank you.
Um, so something I always say is information is free, implementation is key.
Yeah.
So I know definitely for the uh nutrition world, I see a lot of people, you know, doing their own homework and a lot of people getting frustrated or like, oh, I can kind of just like figure it out. I just haven't figured it out for whatever fill in the blank excuse that they give you. What would you say are the two most common solutions people like self teach, and what are the biggest problems with those solutions?
Great question. I expected some good Mike-isms, let's call them, right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I think that you do a really great job of giving people those, like, little nuggets of, catchphrases or statements to help them recognize that, when we can have fun with this, right? Like, even if you're frustrated by pain, injury, or in this case, losing body fat, building muscle, there is a way for us to better digest the information, and I've always said that to you. I know that when you came on my show and you've done presentations multiple times for my clients inside of the Fitness Fix program, that's always the feedback that I get from people is like, "Oh yeah, Mike like gave me this really good analogy and now it makes a lot more sense to me." And I love just kind of the way you set that up because you're 100% correct. Like, I don't even think there would be a nutrition coaching industry if it wasn't for the fact that people are amazing at basically like convincing themselves that they're making all of these changes, right? Like, I think like this might be like a one of the big creators said this, like that like mental like masturbation of, oh, I have all this info, right? But they're not doing anything with it, right? And you're like convincing yourself that that's going to help you make a change, and really, that is the difference between white knuckling it and going on your own and trying to figure it out versus getting that support of a coach who not only can help you with the implementation, but can also help you adjust. And I would say that's actually the first thing that people do not recognize is they want to come up with a plan that truly only works inside of a vacuum. And given that it only works inside of the vacuum, what is going to happen? In my case, with the clients that I support, we're talking to a lot of women who are very ambitious in their careers. They may also be moms and they're managing both a household and things professionally. Or maybe they're at a point in their life where they're like, work hard, play hard. And they convince themselves that the only way to get the end result of the physique that they desire is to have to give up some of those aspects of their lives or put everybody else's needs before their own so that when they do attempt a certain approach with their nutrition and fitness, they don't know where there's room for it because they think they're being selfish and they actually think that that selfishness is a really bad thing. So I'd say like thematically, that's something that I see regardless of the method that the individual may choose. Now, when it comes to more of like what else are people doing, that's kind of like that misconception that they're researching. I honestly think we're still really stuck on very old school nutrition advice that does date back to the 90s. Like, there are still people who come to me, they're like, yeah, I'm just trying to cut carbs. Or it's some like flavor of that, right? And we look at it and we're like, what? Like, have you been on Instagram in the last like 10 minutes? Because I
Right.
promise, but there's somewhere that somebody's going to show you that you should not be cutting out carbohydrates. But interestingly, it's all like the same flavor, whether it's keto, whether it's intermittent fasting, like, and there's a time and place for all of these things, by the way. I'm not saying cutting out carbs is not the answer, but there's a strategy for how we and so ultimately, what I think is important for people to recognize is the fact that everything works until it does not work, but you have to figure out why it's not working. And so ultimately, it's that piece of the frustration that makes them convince themselves that something's wrong with them, that they don't have the capability to implement this thing, that other people just simply have more willpower than them, that other people's lives are easier than theirs, right? It's all of these stories that we're really holding on to in our heads that I almost don't even think now, having done this for so many years, like I've had my like nutrition focus in particular for the last 5 plus, but I've been as it's just interacting with women in particular in group fitness for like 12 years. And I think the thing that people just keep constantly going back to is the story that they have in their head of like why something works better for somebody else that just isn't going to translate for them. And when they're getting on a call with me to try to figure out, like, okay, what's going to make my experience working with Krysta and our assistant coach, Alyssa, any different? It's mostly talking them down off of this ledge that they've built from themselves of like why this is impossible for them. And then a little bit of like calling people out on their bullshit. Like, I would say maybe we'll call this the third one. But I think that the thing that people try to teach themselves how to do is create these programs that are really time consuming for themselves, or they try to create these programs and approaches that require them to change too many variables at once. And then what happens? A week goes by and those life things get in the way. And that story really perpetuates of not only is this too hard, but I'm just a special snowflake and I'm way too busy. So there's just no freaking way that I'm going to be able to make this happen. And I'm sure you guys see a lot of the same things too when it comes to the pain management side of things as well. It's like, of course, like you're in physical pain. We want to get you out of that physical pain. And I think nutrition is very similar in that there's a pain attached to it. It's usually in the form of your internal view of yourself, your lack of self confidence, the way that you feel. But it's like at some point, we have to look at all of these inputs here and figure out why those approaches are not working for you and then build one that actually will. And I just don't think as human beings, we were designed to do that by ourselves. Like we can think that, oh, I can come up with all these tools because I have access to so much information, like more information than we ever had had before. And I wish I could remember who said this, but I was listening to a podcast recently. It was somebody who was on Chris Williamson's show, Modern Wisdom, and he was making the point that we live in both an information rich and an information poor world. And it almost doesn't make sense, right? Because obviously we live in an information rich world. Like in the next 3 seconds we could go into ChatGPT, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Google, whatever, and find so much information. But at the same time, the analogy that he shared was with like dating apps, and he said we also live in a very information poor world because people only choose to represent and share with you the information that they want to. So when you're viewing somebody's dating app profile, it's like you're only getting the slice of insight that they wanted to share with you that they are then controlling. We have to remember that the same thing is happening online with what information is getting the most engagement. With when you Google dieting advice, there's a reason it's money that certain things pop up first, right? So we convince ourselves that we have access to so much, but I do believe the reality is that we actually have access to so little unless we have people like the three of us to help you discern that information and help you figure out where to start and actually do your own research.
Yeah. The The really cool thing I like about what you were saying is the difference in perspective. So, like, someone could be telling themselves a story, they could be stuck in their own heads, and then you come in there. So, like, an example that I always have is I have a client who was told not to bend forward ever. Like, literally, don't do it or your spine will explode. And she lived LA for 2 years. And I was
That's
like,
so
we're gonna,
scary.
yeah, I was like, we're gonna squash that right now. Like, touch your toes. And she was like, and was fine. And she's doing great. But like she told herself that story because she got bad advice and that just like layered on top of it for so long, that it turned into this self-limiting belief. And there's definitely a push and pull on, doing it gently and in a way that doesn't like insult them, like, no, you're stupid. But at the same time, if they're gonna stay stuck in that mindset, what got you there got you stuck. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So if you're gonna stay stuck in that world, then if you're, in that mindset, you're looking for a reason, an excuse not to, and you're gonna find one eventually. It's like, oh, I really should go to the gym, but it's far away, but there's weather outside, but my dog's sick, but whatever. You're going to find a reason not to if your mindset is such that matches that. But if your mindset's the flip, the exact same thing, you're only gonna find reasons. I got 20 minutes. Let me go take a walk. I'll eat this strawberry over this cheesecake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to make those little micro wins, and then it just snowballs into a whole different person.
Totally. And I also think what's important to note about those perspective shifts is like we have to recognize that that is an ever evolving skill set, that you could be the toughest, baddest person in the world who has built that ironclad mindset. And something like if there's anything guaranteed in life, it is change, right? And so something
Mhm.
in your life is going to happen even on a daily basis that is going to test you in your ability to find those reframes. And what I've really seen over the years with nutrition coaching is getting clients to understand that because the life transitions are to be expected, that is where we do want to recognize that we also really do have to be malleable with these things. Because what you were saying, Mike, of like, what got you in the place that you are right now, like that can't be the same thing that's going to get you out of it. I personally have also learned the hard way myself, both in my own fitness and nutrition journey and even in business and creating content is what as well as like it's not just that like those things aren't going to get you out of it, but a lot of times it's things that did actually work for you before. At some point, when they don't work for you anymore, you have to get out of your own way to not deviate back to them as the default. Because, I know for me, when I first like I coach around the principles of macronutrients, but when I first started nutrition coaching, I thought that should be the only focus. And the reason for that was because I had had this experience where I'd never tracked food in my life. And because I was looking for more of that flexibility, the minute I learned and was taught macros from a coach, it did change my life. However, I didn't put emphasis in learning about sleep, stress management, all these other things that come with it, the way that I was training, how much load I was putting on my body, the way that I was a 23-year-old burning myself into the ground because I could, putting that in quotes for those of you listening, but then having a massive life event by the age of 27 where the idea of tracking my food felt like such a mental load and like the bane of my existence that what did I do instead? Every time I couldn't track it, I'd be like, oh, you're a failure. So, like, this is just never going to be a thing for you. Instead of trying to find another solution because there are always multiple solutions available to us.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, even for me, like, so for me, intermittent fasting was what worked for me, and I always talk to people. I'm like, it doesn't work for everyone, and like at the
Yeah,
end of the day, it's because there's a bunch of science and
My
longevity
wife would
stuff too.
explode.
Yeah, there's a bunch of science and longevity aspect to it. But I was like, at the end of the day, I just I stopped eating one extra meal a day. Like right that at the end of the day, I wasn't eating another 500 calories. That's how
right.
I lost a bunch of weight. Made me feel good. To be honest, it helps from like a discipline standpoint. It might sound weird, but
No,
it
I get
does
that.
help. It does help me be like, hey, I'm gonna be disciplined, or like, oh, I got stuck somewhere where I don't have food. I'll be fine for a couple days. And
Mhm.
so like I'm a big runner. So it's like it's even like you don't want to run like that. You always want to have your
True.
like in stores and all that. But like let's say I want to go for a run and I'm on an empty stomach. Well, I can still run 3 miles and won't be my best run, but I won't pass out from it.
Yeah,
Um where
dude.
yeah.
Sorry. There, real quick, there's a guy on Instagram who I just like. I guess he's kind of a nutrition coach. I don't know. He's a nurse, but like he does the stuff on the side, and
Okay.
he just always talks about like these like stupid simple things that I'm always like. I never put conscious effort into thinking it like that, but that's exactly what I do. Where he's like, "Hey, it's like not a bad thing to be hungry. Like you're allowed to be hungry. That's
Yeah.
totally fine." Another thing that he also says, have you heard of the term man kibble, Krista?
I have seen Shane post about it in
Yeah, like
and
boy
point the fact
dinner.
that like, yeah, he's like, no, no, this is boy dinner. Wasn't it on like some kind of like news channel? They labeled it man kibble.
Maybe, but like
I
just
eat that way, so I was offended by the name.
yeah. So like the whole thought process there is like for me, if I don't buy crappy food, I'm not going to eat crappy food when I'm in the house. So Monday through Friday, for the most part, like I'm eating pretty healthy. Like I can buy like low calorie stuff and eat a high volume of it and, like protein first and then kind of backfill everything. All of those types of things are just like simple switches. I don't give myself a choice. Same kind of thing. Like I won't bring snacks to work because if I bring them, I'll eat them. But when I get home, I'm hungry and I'll eat like the macro nutrient dinner instead of just a bunch of snacks. And then on the weekend, I don't know if you can see my shirt, but like I can go to Pete and Elda's and crush pies.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
that's the give and take is I'd rather be quote unquote disciplined for, during the week and then be able to enjoy the weekends as an example. I've
Yeah.
also heard the flip of people explaining like it's easier to be 100% in than like 99. So if you're, oh, like I just can't eat cake today, but I can eat it tomorrow, or I can only eat it after 9, then you're always fighting with yourself versus like I
Mhm.
don't eat cake. It's like a lot easier, but a lot more extreme.
Sure.
Curious on your thoughts on those 2.
Yeah, I mean, I will say I'd be even curious on your guys' thoughts on my comment that I'm about to make is just like it gets to be as simple as you want it to be, right? And like even what you were saying about this guy who's a nurse and what he was posting about, the first thing you stated was he makes these really simple points and you see it and you're like, "Damn, duh." Like that's what I do. And even what like you were just saying, Michael, about the fact that like your approach to intermittent fasting wasn't actually anything that was like really groundbreaking if you really think about it, right? You weren't like, this is my 7 hour eating window and here's why I do it. And cell autophagy, which by the way, I will also chime in and say, I think this is a separate conversation, but just on the note of intermittent fasting, I've also realized over the last couple of years, I've changed my mind about a lot of approaches to nutrition that I used to like shit on and be like, nope, that doesn't work. But that does come back to the principle of what I was saying before we got into all of this, that when other things in your life get thrown your way and you're looking at your health from lots of different perspectives, there may be a time and a place that intermittent fasting makes sense for you. I happened to, like just 2 days ago, did my first ever 22-hour fast. If 2017 Krista could hear me now saying that, she'd be like, why the fuck did you do that? And I have a very specific reason for why I did it, because I am more interested in learning and understanding and experimenting with what can that do for cell turnover and things that, like, for the general population who may be listening to this, what I'm going to say is you may not yet have earned the right to even care about. And that's because you need to nail the basics first. I can have a conversation with my functional nutrition coach about whether I should consider intermittent fasting because I religiously do blood work. I'm looking at different things. I'm wearing the CGM. I'm doing all of this stuff that I didn't need to get into until this phase in my life because I've tried a lot of other things to the point where I just now have more information to be able to say, hey, let's just like experiment with this a little bit. And not only do I have more information, I have much more manageable expectations about the outcomes. I did not do a 22-hour fast to be like, oh, let me see what's going to happen to the scale tomorrow. I literally did it because I'm trying to understand inflammation in my body. Like that is coming from what I would say is a lot more mature place, and why I'm making the statement that if you can't do the basics, you have not earned the right to even consider what I'm describing. But at the same time, I'm also going to say, you were saying before, Mike, you were like, yeah, my wife wouldn't really agree with IF right now. I agree with her too, because I have certain instances, like I'm going to tell clients, you can't do that at a certain phase in your cycle. You can't do that if you're not getting X amount of hours of sleep per night. You can't do that if you're going to a certain kind of workout class 5 days a week. I don't do that stuff. So there's all these variables that we have to really consider before we make those decisions. And the reason why I'm curious of your guys' like response to that is because, I think that it just really comes down to everything I just said and everything both of you just said. People don't want to hear it. Like they don't want to hear that it can be that simple because again, they want to be able to feed into this narrative that justifies why they choose a certain path. And I think sometimes it's easier, like if we want to get into like, I'm really into energetics and intuition and that kind of stuff, it's mostly a projection. So the person who's saying that they'd prefer to choose the route of, I'm going to go extreme and just not eat the cake. What I can respect is they've decided that that is going to work for them, right? And then there's the person on the other side who's like, well, I don't mind fighting with myself because I don't see it that way. They see it as like, this is giving me permission. This is giving me flexibility. Neither one of them is wrong. But what is wrong, I believe, is when you make those judgments onto other people, it has nothing to do with them. And the projection is that your statement is everything to do with how you feel inside. And that's where it can get kind of complicated with the fact that, like, even us giving advice right now, if we want to be like super meta about it, if anybody's triggered by anything that any of us are saying, I hate to tell you this, but that says more about you than it does about me or either of the Michaels on this call, right? Like it has everything to do with how you feel internally. And I think that's part of the reason why people just don't want to hear these sorts of things. But I'd be curious in your guys' clinical experience what you think about that.
I could tell you, me and Brew have talked about this. If you have someone take a look at your back and they're like, your myofascial meridian lined up, right? I'm already losing you, right?
Yeah,
And it's like,
I have no idea what you're saying.
exactly. If you have someone talking to you like that, it's kind of like a marketing strategy to make it seem like they're the only ones that can help you. And I know Bruno in the Cairo world, because you get a wide range of people, but it's
Sure.
like you'll get people tell you, oh, your rib is out of place, so I got to put it back in place. As a chiropractor, it's right. That's not really what's happening, but that's not what's happening, right? There's a lot of fear behind that. So it's like for us, when it comes to communicating, we make it as simple because, to be honest, sometimes it really is very simple. It's, hey, it can be here are the things you need to do and you'll do them. is very simple for people, but it's also I feel like when you can make it as simple as possible, it's kind of motivating for your client, right? It goes, oh, they actually broke this down in a way that it feels achievable. So that's yeah, like it's really as simple as you can make it be. Like in general fitness world or general, even when it comes to general injuries, me and Brew were talking about this a couple episodes ago. I was like, I honestly don't even think what we actually give people to do matters as much as like how much we communicate and actually man, lost the word.
That's okay.
Account
Oh,
sorry,
yeah.
hold people accountable.
Yeah,
Sorry, but,
no,
like,
that's a good point.
because it's yeah, the specific interventions that we're doing, yes, we did an eval, we saw some deficiencies, we're
Sure.
working on it, but the biggest part is you actually doing it. That's
Mhm.
why that like, kinda what you brought back before, if you're not actually sticking with the plan all the way through, and obviously life happens and the
Right.
adjustments need to be made, but if you don't do it, like, yeah, it's not gonna work.
Yeah, there's literally nothing that pains me more, and this still happens on a daily basis. I had this conversation with a client literally 2 days ago, and we've been working together for a year. She sent me a reel like 20 minutes before this that kind of captured this point exactly. But it's like the accountability piece, it's so true. And the thing that gets me like so fired up in a negative way is when someone tries to turn around and tell me, this program just isn't working or this just isn't working. Truthfully, you are not working, and it's harder for you to say that, and I don't say that from a place of trying to sound like this hardcore coach. I say it from a place of, like, I wanna also hold you accountable in holding the standard that you set for yourself in every other freaking area of your life, because somehow you are this badass at work, and you love getting promoted, and you really like making money. So don't tell me that you don't have a standard for yourself of a certain level of excellence over there, because I promise you that if you held yourself to that same standard in this other area of your life, you would also just feel so much better. So it's not even coming from this place of like, I'm going to be tough like David Goggins. It's more just about like the consistency of all of it, because everything in your life is so connected and none of these things are happening in a silo, right? That it's like if we can recognize the way one thing that's happening over here is very much representative of something else that's happening in this opposite area, things would feel even simpler and even easier. But I'll have clients that say to me, like, every time I feel like I'm starting to make progress, classic line, and I'm sure the two of you get this too, something happens and it sets me back. And there's this reel that was a trend a little while ago, and I guess people are still doing it, and it's like every time I start to make progress in the gym, and then it's just this repeat video of the person getting like fake hit with a med ball. I'll send it to you guys if you haven't seen it. And every time the med ball hits, it's like sick, work gets busy, like every excuse that you could possibly think of. But I'm calling them excuses because they are guaranteed to happen. So the real question is like, yes, we can all laugh at that reel. And from a marketing perspective, the reason why that type of content does so well is because people love to identify with their pain. And so it really resonates online, but it's also the very thing that's keeping you stuck. And that's what's so
Mm.
hard about it.
What's the thing that Gen Z people do? Like, it's not the snaps, it's like this now
It's
or whatever.
like
Yeah.
I think it's I
It's
forget what
some
it's called.
yeah, it's but you hit the nail on the head. And Mikey, to your point before, it is painfully simple, uh, but it's not necessarily easy. So
Yeah.
a lot of the times when I have like this conversation comes up a lot, and when I have this conversation with clients, I get in front of that "oh shit" moment a lot sooner than I used to, where I'm like, "Okay, like, you are gonna go on a work trip, your kids are gonna get sick, you are gonna have a flare-up even, like, something bad's gonna happen, we're gonna ride this wave together." In that position, when stuff sucks, what happens? And it's like, bare minimum, we have to do X, Y, and Z. And if that's the case, we're going to keep this steamrolling a lot faster. And you're going to know, and I'm going to remind you that just because you hit that dip does not mean we're back at square one. It just means we're a bump
Mhm.
in the road. I mean, I feel like I say this every episode now, but like I literally called the company Nav because it's like a navigation system. You make a wrong
Yeah.
turn off the path, like I'm showing you how to get back on track. That's as simple as I can make the analogy, and people are like, "Huh, okay, cool." So when it's the accountability thing and making sure you're staying on track from a nutrition perspective, kind of like pain where it's like you don't eat one salad and get a six pack. You don't squat once, you get strong, right? How do you help people appreciate the small wins in that lag of not seeing progress immediately?
Yeah, really important and great question. And I think this is a big parallel with managing pain and with nutrition because also too, like let's just use the pain example before talking about the nutrition piece. When you're in a lot of pain, you may come to people like the two of you, and you're so desperate to get out of that pain. And you've also been searching for so many answers. But on top of that, unlike maybe nutrition a little bit and fat loss, depending on like how much it's on your mind, you may be in so much pain that like you can't do things throughout your day that it's like really difficult. Like we're talking like even just driving to the appointment to see one of you guys, right? So when we think about that fact, I do think it's really important to get ahead of the anticipation of like there's going to be bumps in the road, but also too, and my friend Sam Mike, she believes the same thing that you do about pain, and she was like kind of the first person to introduce me to this concept. It's like pain isn't bad. It's just a signal that we need to figure something out, right? And when she kind of framed it up for me that way, I was like, oh, wow, I have like a totally different relationship to this now because it even has helped me. Like when I have a client that I'm coaching, especially in a group fitness setting, there's always somebody that's like, I have this ailment here and this one there. Sometimes they like don't want to bother me because they think it's going to like interfere with the class. And I'm like, no, no, this is literally my job. Like, that's why I'm here coaching you. Like, let's like modify this workout because there's justifications for why you feel the way that you do. But I also find that so many of those people have this old story or maybe had gotten bad guidance that goes along the lines of, oh, it hurt my shoulder, so we're just not going to do anything pressing overhead. And it's like, actually, there's a couple better questions that I can ask you before we make that decision, right? So I say all of that to say, like, when it comes to thinking about that, I actually think in some ways there is a really solid like initial buy-in that you can get in your clinical settings with your patients if they've reached that threshold of being like, I gotta figure this out. I think that when it comes to nutrition, that is really variable because there are a lot of people's the same way people have different pain tolerances. I think that because we have to eat every single day, I think that the threshold that someone has to be like, okay, I'm ready to make a change, it looks one way on paper. But then when it comes down to me explaining to them, well, here are some of the considerations to make. They can talk themselves out of it a little bit faster because they can truthfully hide behind their clothes. They can have the comfort of, like certain things that they just always go back to. And they justify the fact that, well, I still do have to eat every single day. Now, if you're in, again, tons and tons of pain, that's where it would be like, well, of course I'm going to go continue to see Mike and go to him for sessions and hopefully commit to you actually doing your exercises and your stuff at your own at home, because we all know that's the difference maker here. And that's really what gets back to your question of like, well, how do we help people see these small wins and see these bigger pictures? A lot of it does come down to the structure of the way we coach, doing check ins with clients every single week or every other week. And in those check ins, something that I've done very consistently in the last like 3 years, but something that I would like go back and encourage myself to do sooner as a coach was when we do check ins with clients, forcing them to write down the things that went well that week, just so that they can reframe before I even need to be the one doing that. And there's so much neuroscience to this. Like I've even done this myself in the last 6 months, working with a self-development coach. I was in a place in business where in making a transition to having a second business and just needing to hold more capacity for things, I was having a very hard time seeing the wins because of the degree to which I was working and sacrificing a lot of other parts of my life, that I would have these days where I'd be like, this is so cool because I love what I'm doing, but like to what end, right? And so I would have trouble seeing the wins. And then I'd also start comparing myself to other people. And the way my coach helped me get out of that was she had me do an exercise where every single day I had to write down at least one compliment that somebody gave me about something that I was doing well. And the more I did it, now I don't even need to write them down. We call it like clocking the wins. I see them everywhere. Like you guys gave me 3 in the last, like, 10 minutes, and I, like, listened for them in a way that I have never listened for them before, and it's made me feel so much more confident that guess what the byproduct is? I actually stick to the shit that I know that if I keep doing it, it's going to continue to get me the end result that I desire, the clients I wanna work with, the business that I wanna have, the brand that I wanna represent, so then it becomes this very positive self-fulfilling prophecy. If we bring that back to nutrition, the same kind of thing has to go down because something that, again, going back to like the original, thought process of like, what do you wish you kind of knew as like a younger coach or clinician versus today? I would say something else that I wish I had focused on earlier because I see the power of it now is we love data and like we track a lot of it, like sleep, digestion, stress, like all those things, water intake, etc. And I used to always frame it up to clients as the benefit of tracking that data was simply for the sake of being able to tell the story of why did the scale move or not move in the direction you wanted it to. And I think that was only half right. Because now what I realize is like all that data, while I use it as a way to help them kind of zoom out and understand and justify, what I think really matters more is being able to get them to capture like when they made certain decisions that are their wins because they are representative of the individual who's already gotten the result that they want. It's like that future version of yourself who's lost the weight, but also kept it off, who has had a better system for managing their pain and gets back to, I know you work with a lot of golfers, right? Like can go play 18 holes without waking up the next day and being like, damn, I had a great time with my friends on this golf course, but now I'm going to pay for it for the next 72 hours. Like we don't want to be that person, right? The same way we don't want to be a yo-yo dieter. So really it's looking at how can we again reframe this, a lot of that identity work to be able to say to ourselves, how is this decision that I'm making right now, even if it doesn't feel that good, like a vote for the future person and the future version of me who has this all figured out and has all of these things that I desire too.
No, I think that's great. I think Bruno said before, you can't manage what you don't measure.
Right.
And so even on our side, it just shows them like, hey, this is how far you've come. And I love the weekly. I do the same thing, like the week, even for myself on the
Yeah.
weekly, like what did you do well this week? What can you prove? Whatever.
Like you're so
And
smart and funny and nice. Shut
There
up.
you go. 3 men.
um,
You guys are
but
such
yeah,
green friends.
the weekly stuff, but I think the weekly stuff's great from a client perspective because
Yeah.
they do lose sight. Like they
Of
lose sight
course.
what they're doing it for every time.
Yeah.
And even like I'm training one of our buddies right now for running, and it's I mean it's even more accountable than ever because it's a friend of mine, so it's
Right.
really like getting after him. And but like it's a weekly thing. Like it's always to the point of like he feels like he's gonna let me down. Like there's a percent like
Sure.
workouts
Sure.
complete on what I use. And he's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I just wanna make sure it's 100%. I don't wanna miss a single workout." It cracks me
I
up.
love that as your friend because I think sometimes that can backfire. I'm not always very keen to like coach friends in that regard because sometimes they like hide from you more. So that's also a testament to your guys' relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Bruno hides from me, but,
Oh, yeah. Oh, big time. I just I wanna normalize verbally abusing your running coach because Mikey was my running coach through, the marathon, and
Oh, so
I
this
would
is
just
how
wake
you
up.
got into all this.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So Mikey would text me, be like, "What's up, you piece of shit?" Like, and then we just like attack each other back and forth, and I'd go for my run. So it worked. I
There you
won't
go.
condone it for everybody, but it could be effective.
Listen to your client, know your client, right?
100%. The thing, like going back to like those small wins and stuff, I see people get stuck so often, even when they're making progress. Like if a client comes in like, "Oh, my back's kinda achy today. I I went for a 3-mile run yesterday, and then I went, like, on a 10-mile hike the day before, and I had, like, 3 workouts in a row." I'm like, "Do you remember what happened when you came in?" They're like, "Yeah, I couldn't tie my shoes." I'm like, "Mm, right?" Like, you have to when you move the goalposts, it's very hard
Mhm.
to continuously see that you're making progress, which is
Yeah.
why instead of
So true.
I think about it like levels in a video game, checkpoints, right? So it's
Mhm.
like the ultimate goal is I want to run a 5K, but before that we have to get out of pain. After that, we have to, be able to squat whatever, 100 pounds 10 times, and we have to be able to do this and that. So you're seeing everything broken down into smaller steps, which makes it more digestible and attainable. So it's not a failure because you didn't run, session one, you know what I mean? Like, it's going to take steps to get there. And
Yeah.
that's a whole other framing context thing as well.
No, for sure. But I also think both of you guys just raised this good point of like, the layer to this is that chances are the person who's enlisting the coach or the clinician to get support, they are already a motivated individual and often a very highly ambitious person that they even care enough to invest time, money, resources into reaching out to any of us. That it's important for us to also remember that we have even more of a responsibility to do the things that we are saying about how we support our clients. That I'd argue some of what we're talking about, like, yes, I've referenced that I believe in macronutrients, but that is now today, I can confidently say like 15% of my coaching, because really it's like the macronutrients will come when the person can work through a lot of what we're discussing. And there is a tactful and effective way to be able to walk somebody through what we're talking about that does not make you a cheerleader on Zoom or when you have them in your office, but is tangibly helping them not only be able to shift this goalpost because they're like doing that part themselves, right? Like it's almost like the Achilles heel for all of us. Like, and your clients usually emulate you to some degree. So like they're also coming to us because we do the same things. And that is really it's we have to acknowledge, like, that's hard. Like, that is the harder part of coaching, I would say, because we do have a very, what I would consider, important responsibility to help them be able to see, like, "Wait a minute, you are motivated in a positive way, which is why you keep shifting this goalpost, but let's also bring it back to where you started before." And I think that just really comes down to something that we've each kind of touched on a little bit, but it's like, even with you guys joking about your coaching style, it's like all about managing expectations, right? And I think I would say that for that high achieving individual, the managing of the expectations is super tough, because once you start to see traction, you don't like the fact that getting sick set you back, going on a vacation maybe didn't go the way you planned it, because you're over here being like, no, like I was in this groove and nothing could stop me. And like, I got this. Or maybe you're judging yourself in the way I was describing earlier, where you're like, I'm freaking crushing it at work. Like, why can I not get my shit together over here? Like, that is a really, really important part of the nutrition coaching process that, truthfully, I don't even know sometimes if I'm able to capture effectively in the ways that I talk about what I do, unless I use my podcast or I have opportunities like this. Because a lot of what we're saying, it's deep enough and also nuanced enough that the person who's available to hear it needs to like really listen to you for more than a 60-second clip, right?
Mm.
But people also don't want to hear it, like we were saying at the very beginning of this. And what they're really looking for is like, give me this checklist. If I do this, this, and this, like, tell me that I'm going to get this outcome. And that's where I think this whole managing expectations of like high achieving individuals is so crucial, because we know that they are likely going to set pretty lofty goals for themselves, right? And then so much so that they'll like ignore the things that got in their way and be like, no, like this should have happened for me by now. And a lot of times that may look like them maybe like convincing themselves, like, well, I did this, and this. And then I'll need to go back to the data and be like, are you sure you did this, and this? Because you skipped your check in 3 weeks in a row. And also, I only see your food tracked 5 out of 7 days twice in the last 2 weeks. So it's like, sorry, sister, but like there's a little bit more information that we didn't get here, that like you can tell me that you're doing all the things, but I'm going to check you to make sure that you are truly doing all the things. Not to ask you to do all the things, but to say, like, can we just level set a little bit here? A great example of this is why I do not have any client dieting between June and September. It's fucking dumb. Like, why would you do that to yourself? It is the worst time of year to be in a deficit. Like, if anybody hears this and you decide that you want to lose a little bit of weight before summer, text me yesterday. Like we're in the time frame of like when it's the best time to go through a quick calorie deficit because your schedule is in a little bit better of a spot to do so. But it's like the more I work with clients and the longer that I work with them, then they start to get this information that is the reason why what we've been calling simple does actually get easier, because then they start to understand that's like, oh, I do have control over this. Oh, I can design my life in a certain way. Oh, I can make these decisions that now all of a sudden it does feel both easy and simple because I did it like, swimming with the current rather than against it the whole time.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head with the way, like, it starts off as not a chore, but it starts off as something that
Mhm.
has to be intentional. And
Yeah,
then over time, you build the muscle, you build the habit,
true.
then it becomes an automatic behavior. And I've used the ism like it's a it's teach a man to fish, not give a man a fish,
Yeah.
because I have so many clients who are like, oh, like, I just wanna get out of pain. It's like, "Okay, great. We can get you out of pain really fast." But what happens, dude, you're never gonna be devoid of problems, especially if you're an active individual. You're going to run into bumps, bruises, setbacks, possibly even other injuries. If you don't know how to effectively manage that, you are not in a long-term solution. Long-term solution doesn't mean magically pain-free forever. Long-term solution means you are able to appropriately manage the demands on your life. So if you hit that, hey,
Mhm.
back spasm or something every once in a while, it's like, I don't need to freak out. I know what to do here, and I can get this
Love
from
that.
usually it's a month thing to like maybe a couple days. That's a
Sure.
huge win. And you don't have to go spend all this money out of pocket. You have the skills internally. No one can take that away from you, and you can do it anytime you want. So that's my soapbox. I was like, what was I just gonna say? But I'm glad I came back to it
Love it.
because that stuff is so important between between like what I do from I always say I'm usually not the first stop, I'm often the last
Yeah.
stop
Yeah.
because the goal is not to just fix you and then the next time you need fixing to come back and see me and get stuck in this repetitive process. It's we're gonna really, really handle this for a extended period of time and really control all the controllables so that in the next 10, 20, 30 years, you don't need me. You call me to say happy birthday or like I miss you. That's it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's
Yep.
no other reason if you are truly in a good spot.
So true. I think like there's no better compliment that you can get as a practitioner than the client who does stay with you. Like I have clients that I've had for 4+ years. And
Mhm.
in the last like 6 months, I've seen a lot of them tell me, like, okay, I'm ready to do this by myself. And I'm so happy for them for that. Right. Like
Mm.
that's what I ultimately want for them. And half the time they're staying for the 4+ year mark because like I've gone through these really cool periods where 3 years ago I had like 5 brides, and then a year goes by, we do everything for their wedding. Another year passes, they get pregnant, they have the baby, then they come back to me, and it's like we get to do all these cool life
Mm.
transitions. Or it's a client that I used to coach group fitness with in Charlotte that I haven't spoken to in like 6 years. And maybe she just like had a big life change, gone through a divorce or got a different job. And she's like, oh, like I already trusted Krysta and like I know that she can help me get to where I want to go. Now's the time that I'm going to reach out to her. And they really do stay. Like I never really like I find it funny when people are like so worried sometimes about client retention, because I'm like, I think that says more about your approach to the way you're doing your, slice of health here, that than it does about like even what you're marketing. Like it really does come down to like how you think about the end result that you want for your client and being able to explain it in a way that's like, even if this takes a little bit more time for us to get there, right? Like it's okay because it's going to pay off for you in the long run, that you're not going to not only not need to come back to me, but not need to come back to me for the same shit, because those clients are the
Mm.
most frustrated, right? Like they're the ones who are like, they knew me in my group fitness days in North Carolina. They worked with me a little bit then they're like dragging themselves to come back and they're like beating themselves up, being like, I just can't figure this out. And like, I know exactly what you're going to tell me. So I know I need your help. I don't really know why I need your help. I just know I need it, sort of thing.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'd even be curious, like from a running coach perspective, though. I know that people like get really into running. Can't say this is me, but I'll be doing my annual spring lake 5, and that's it. They get into their running. I'll see you there, Mike. And they like really get into it, right? So I'd be curious, like once somebody kind of finds that running bug with doing running coaching and your experience with your clients in particular, do they wind up staying with you because they're like itching for the next race? Or do they really start to get excited about like being faster and like some of the more like technique to it, so to speak?
Depends on the person, but
Okay.
technically it also depends on how you educate them. So for me, what you
Gotcha.
described is me. You pretty
Yeah.
much I got into it, you take a IV, put it into my arm, and that's just running going
Give
straight
you a
into
hug.
it. And I just
Yeah.
get deep down into it.
Okay.
It all depends on how you teach them. But yeah, running is definitely something that can get addictive. It's
Mhm.
for the person. And actually the research tells us this. The most time people get hurt is within the first 6 months of starting up running. So
Interesting.
that's
Okay.
actually, like, the most important part, what a lot of people do. It's just, "I enjoy running. I'm just gonna keep running every day. I'm gonna keep doing it."
Okay.
That's where the injury usually happens. You talk to them, "Hey,
Mm.
you don't need to be redlining it every time you run. You got our long runs, our short intense runs, and things like that." That's truly it's a big mix. Don't forget about lifting because everyone and I
Yeah.
fall in the same trap where it's like, "Ah, God, I gotta run 50 miles this week. I don't
Like,
know
where
where
am
I'm
I gonna fit in my list? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So now, yeah, it depends on the person, but yeah, you can see the people that go head over heels into it, probably especially early on, they're going to be more likely to get hurt just because no one's holding them back, essentially.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. See, I can't relate in the sense that, like, I've always wanted to get the runner's high, and I've tried and tried, and I just I maybe if I thought about it from the perspective of, like, well, if I got the technique and, like, that kind of understanding of, like, how to put it together, maybe I'd change my mind, but, like, I was a swimmer, and so it's not even an issue of endurance or lung capacity or anything like that.
Mhm.
Like, I've always loved swimming, and I would jump back in a pool tomorrow even if it felt slow, but, like, I'm the person that, like, the minute I start running, I'm like, "My shoulder feels weird. This doesn't feel right." Like, I can't get into that, like,
Paint
stride, and then I get in
paint
my
the
head.
signal. Paint
I
the
know.
signal.
Let's go. Let's
Um,
go full circle podcast
I'm
there.
like, yeah, but I'm like, I just, like, don't like, I like the pain of, like, lifting, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Like, I'm like, yeah, I'll go super heavy or I'll get on a bike and I'll be like, "Yes, like, I can go on this air bike for the next 45 seconds and torture myself," and I realize I could do all those same things through running, like, I really it's just like a story, like what we were talking about of having that story in your head, right? Like, I have this story of, like, I'm not really a runner, so I've never pursued it, but I've also always kinda looked at it like, I'm like, "Okay, like, I have these other things that I like doing," and I actually the gym that I coach at here in New York is very run heavy because we have, like, a run club component
Mhm.
of what we do, and I totally agree with what you were saying about, like, I have to talk to clients about that often because the closer they get to marathons and half marathons, they're like, "How am I gonna fit my lifts in?" Like, they recognize the importance, but then they're also like, "I have a job, like, I gotta make some decisions here and sleep too." So it's a lot of variables.
Yeah, I would even say too, because I actually talked to Britta's dad about this. A lot of people, it's like, I don't feel good running. There is a technique to it. Like, right, there's a specific way to gate mechanics. Like, and there's a book, Born to Run, is back in 2008, based on a
Did I read
paper
it?
and all
Did I
that.
change my mind? Like, I would just like
Nah,
to I would like to enjoy my 5 miles that I do every year in Spring Lake, New Jersey. That's it. I'm not even asking for a lot,
and
but
that's
I
fine.
literally the whole time I'm, like, feeling sad about it. I'll be, like, good for the first 2 miles because there's, like, a lot of people around and good energy, and then I'll keep going, but the whole time I'm just, like, I'm wishing for this runner like, I'm like, "What is this runner's high these people experience? When will it come to me?" It just hasn't
I
come.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a runner's high. I would definitely wouldn't say it comes with races. The runner's high comes with, like, when you go out on an easy run on your own for
And you're on
60
your own.
minutes and you're
Okay.
just chilling. You're going at party pace,
Yeah, but
as
see,
Bruno or
even
Abu said.
even training, like, because I won't run the 5 miles, like, totally cold, but and by training, I mean, like, a month before, like, probably in the next 3 weeks, I'll, like, start running here and there, and, like, and I'm, like, I trained for a high rocks, and
Yeah.
also, like, that was hard, I was doing it by myself, but then actually doing the race with my brother, so that was a little tough because, like, we didn't even get, like, the hang time of it the way we were going to at the actual event, but yeah, like, I remember when Mike started running And I was like shocked that he was going to commit to doing that. Because in my mind, I'm like, I just don't see you being a runner. Despite soccer and all the things, I'm like, I just don't put you in that category. I think of you as more of a lifter. And I always thought to ask you, like, did you ever get to the runner's high experience? Because I'm jealous of people who do. My one friend has told me she thinks I never experienced it. She made the comment about the races, like you just said. But the other thing she told me, which I'm like, I don't believe you. She said I haven't run like solo, like on a party pace for long enough. And I'm like, girl, you're telling me that I have to
Yeah.
run longer when I don't like it.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive,
Yeah,
but
what the hell?
there was a long run that I did, like, I went out, it was cold, it was dark, and I probably had to do, like, an hour and a half or so, and I'm wrapping the lake by my house, and no music, the birds are chirping, sun's coming up, and I literally start singing to myself, and I realized there was someone behind me, and I was like, "They must think I'm insane," but I was just having a great time. Me and Mikey always joke about this, but it is kinda true, is, like, assert your dominance, you know what I mean? It's like when you finish a
Oh,
long
okay.
run on a Sunday,
Okay.
it's like I literally say this to my wife sometimes, I'm like, "Yeah, like, we're better than everybody. Everyone we see at the grocery store, everyone we see, like, we're just better than everybody because we know we just went and did that hard thing that, you know, didn't really want to do, but did it anyway. So there's like a psychology endorphins kind of rush to that. But like the that's what I perceive as a runner's high. If it's
Do
something
you
else, I
then
don't know.
Okay, so here's my next question for both of you. When once that you've achieved that on that one run, maybe this is where my expectations need to be managed, like we're talking about here.
Mhm.
Can you then, like, the next time you go for a run, can you grab that feeling sooner or right away? Because
Oh,
in
like,
my
can you
mind
do it on demand?
yes.
No.
No, no, it
That's
doesn't
No.
what I
work
don't
like
like.
that.
It's
Doesn't
such like
work
a
like that.
it like happens on such a random run.
Well,
And
then why do
sometimes
you keep running? Like, what
You
motivates you to
chase
do
because
it.
something
you're
you
chasing
enjoy
that
doing?
high.
You never
Ah.
know when it's coming, you know?
Okay, okay, alright, that's fair. See, I told you, like, my expectation around how like, in my head, it would be like, I unlock that feeling the one time, and then it would make me like running because I would just, like, reach that state of that, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, I do totally get that high off of, like, even more cardio intensive type workout. Like, again, the gym that I train at, we always have, like, a conditioning block built into our workout, and when I'm, like, feeling good that day and I go ham on it, I'm like, every Saturday we have this class called Brunch Burn, and it's fucking brutal. Like, it's so hard, but I feel better than everyone else. I walk out of the West Village and I'm like, "Look at all these people having brunch," like, and I just did a hard workout. Like, I totally feel that way, and we're really, like, socially community based too, so it's like, you did it with all your friends and you're leaving the gym and you, like, know you're good. Like, I feel all of that. I just maybe just haven't put it in the context of running in particular.
I'll put it to you this way, Krista. The next time you're home, Own Wolf
Yep.
Collective Run Club.
I gotta come.
We're not setting a mileage. We're running until you feel the high. And
Oh
we're
god,
me,
okay.
I'm gonna get Abu there. I'm gonna get Dan, all the guys who are like the endurance guys.
Yeah, I need them.
You can't have a bad time with them on a run.
Okay.
So we're gonna
Well, they
get
can also
everyone
entertain me too.
oh
And
yeah.
yeah, I'll
I
pass the
literally am
word.
gonna write in the group chat right now and tell them what's going
Do
on.
it. Yeah, and this is good timing because this will be my beginning of my prep for it'll I'll wanna be prepared for that run to, like, not be going into it so cold that now I'll start running in the next week, which I need to be doing anyways.
There we go. I love it. I
Great.
love it. This is awesome. All right. So what we got to get you to do is give your biggest and loudest go fix yourself to wrap us up. All right.
Oh,
So
that's how you guys end the show?
Yeah.
yeah,
I
you
love
gotta
that.
say with your chest.
Okay. Alright. I feel I gotta put, like, both feet on the ground and, like,
Yes, you
hope
do.
with my
Yes, you do.
sounds really good. Well, before I do it, I just wanna say thank you both for having me. This was so much fun, and I hope that for whoever was listening to this, like, they really can hear the fact that while we did talk about nutrition, right, and we talked about pain and chiropractic and just, like, all of these approaches that we might have to the things we do, I really feel like conversations like these are so cool because they literally apply to anything in our life. Like, we were specific, and yet not specific at the same time, because you can take everything that we are saying and boil it down to a theme, an analogy, or whatever you want to call it, to any area in your life where you just want to get better. And for as much as we were just joking 2 seconds ago, like, be better than other people. And if that is one of your motivators, like, I'm here for it. Nothing wrong with asserting your dominance like that. Right. And doing whatever this is. I'm ashamed because I have a Gen Z employee, and she who literally, or maybe I sent her this. There's a video on Instagram of somebody doing like a speech at a wedding or something, and instead of like getting everybody to clap after, they just all went like this. Everyone did it.
That kind of makes me uncomfortable, but I'll accept it.
Like, that's iconic, and I'm like, this is why we are not in the same generation, but I'm happy I learn from you every day. So you can go right in the Own Rules chat. I will go text Paige after this and find out whatever the heck this is called. And on that note, go fix your